Howdy everyone, and a big welcome back to The More You Grow. I'm finally done with my summer class, which means I can breathe again, I can relax a little bit, can work on videos for you guys. So we're getting back into that and I'm so excited. But it seems like in my life, there's always something that goes wrong at the worst times. Just recently, I hurt my back. I don't know what I did, but I can't bend over. It hurts really bad. So I'm waiting on the results to see what happened there. And in the meantime, I can't do a whole lot of bending or heavy lifting, which means we're gonna have to put some of our bigger projects like the greenhouse on hold for a little bit. But that doesn't mean there aren't still things we can do. Behind me, we've got the porch forest back here. Got all these plants. I had to put them on hold during the summer class, and there's a lot of things we need to get done. So we're gonna do some transplanting today. We're gonna do a few other things, so let's go check it out. First up, we need to transplant these dragon fruit seedlings. These are the ones that we did in the grocery store growing episode on dragon fruit. If you haven't seen that, I'll leave a link up above. But these guys honestly need to be transplanted a long time ago. But as we saw, I didn't have much time, and so we're gonna do it now and see if we can get this done. So the first thing we're gonna do is you wanna make sure before you do any of this is make sure that the soil is wetted down real well. If you work with dry soils, they just fall apart. The roots are kind of stressed. If you have them nice and watered and healthy when you do this, they should be fine. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna take some of these individual pots, and I cleaned these out really well. These were recycled. I cleaned them out, gave them a little bit of a Clorox wipe just in case there's any diseases or anything in there. And we're gonna give them their own little home. So let's see what happens when we get these separated. Okay, so moment of truth. Try not to tear these guys up. Okay, so it came out in one piece. We're going to try to separate these a little at a time here and try to not damage the roots as much as possible. This may be a slow process, guys. So I thought I'd give you a little bit closer view of what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to distinguish where all the roots are and all the bases are and try to do as little damage as possible. And see, so we have one here, we got a nice little set of roots on, and we're going to put that down in the pot. Get a little bit of our soil and try to set them up a little bit. They kind of fell over because they were getting so tall. And just pack that in there. It's not really rocket science or anything, but if you do it right, you've got some nice healthy plants. Another success. Next up, we're going to transplant our elderberries that we got from Terry at River Hills Harvest while we're at the Mother Earth News Fair. In a perfect world, I would have taken those cuttings, put them straight out in the field, and let them get established out in the field. But we didn't have that kind of time, and I was still at school. So if you remember back to the video, we took those cuttings, put them in perlite under the mist bench, and let those root out. I need to get these out of these little containers and let them grow in a little bit bigger container, and hopefully when it cools off this fall or early next year, we can get these out in the field and let them grow nice, big, and tall and start making some elderberries. So we're going to take our larger pots here that I've rinsed out like I did the smaller pots, and these should be a nice new home for our elderberries. So just as a quick reminder, we have two different cultivars of elderberries here. We have ones called Bob Gordon. I guess that was the guy that discovered this wild cultivar that did so well. This is the one that produces the most. It produces like quarter-pound clusters of berries. And they hang down where the birds aren't as able to eat the berries off of it, which is a good feature. The other cultivar we have is Ranch, and this one is known for its ability to be a little bit more drought hardy than the other cultivars are. So it can handle maybe this Texas heat a little bit better than some of the other varieties. But we'll find out. Let's get these potted up and see how much they grow. Alright, so as you can see here, I wet these pots down a little bit because the soil was pretty dry and it was going to be hard for that water to infiltrate down into these bottom layers without just having to constantly keep water on it till it goes all the way through. If you have dry potting soil, you want to be sure to pre-wet it, get a little bit moist before you put your plants in, because Even though it looks like you're watering, a lot of times it's going around and down the sides and not getting down into that soil. So all we need to do now is get our elderberries put in here and we can cover these up. So what I've done is I've filled up the pot partial way with potting soil. And now I'm going to take one of our elderberries and I'm going to see about where the level of the soil is in the original pot to this new pot. We want to make it where there's a little bit of space above the soil level so that way the water doesn't just run out the top. But we also don't want to cover up this stem all the way or anything. We want to cover the soil just to the soil level or a little above what we have in our original pot. So I'm going to get that done and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm finished. Alright, they're all planted up. Let's give them a little drink. Next up, we have a very, very sad dwarf everbearing mulberry tree. This guy is destined to go in our food forest, so we gotta try to save him. The problem is he's in this little bitty pot that dries out really quick, and I kind of forgot him one day on accident, and a lot of the leaves died up top. But I think it's going to be okay. I checked, it's alive all the way to the top underneath the bark. It's got leaves on it down here, so I think it's going to send out new leaves and it'll be okay. We're going to get a bigger pot with a little bit better soil and it won't dry out as quick. And hopefully this guy will be much, much bigger in the food forest coming up soon. Alright, our dwarf everbearing mulberry tree has a new home. Hopefully this will help it rebound. It'll get nice and healthy to where it'll give us lots of delicious little mulberries to eat in the coming years. He looks pretty happy to me, wouldn't you agree? Next up, we're going to transplant some tomatoes for this fall. There may be some out there that don't realize that after you plant your seeds for your spring tomatoes, a little bit later in the year you can plant more seeds and get a second crop of tomatoes in the fall. And that way, after your spring tomatoes start to die out and stop producing, you can have a whole new set of tomatoes that can start producing in the fall all the way till freeze. So we have here some Merced tomatoes, and these are very hard to find. This is an open pollinated replicate of the variety Merced, which was a hybrid that has been discontinued. These seeds were hard to find, so I'm hoping these do well so I can get some more seeds from them and see how they taste, because I've heard a lot of good things about this seed. So let's get these transplanted and see what we got. So just to give you a little idea of what I'm doing here, I have our pot with just enough potting soil to cover the bottom and cover the holes with new soil. I have our Merced tomato here that I've loosened up the roots a little bit so it can find all that new soil. And I'm going to put this as deep as I can into this pot, and I'm going to cover up the stem. Normally you wouldn't do that with plants. That's normally a very bad idea because it can cause stem rot, things like that. But in this case, all that stem that gets covered in soil will just become roots. So that'll just give us more roots to feed and water our plant. So I'm going to do that with the rest of these and I'll show you what they look like when I'm done. Alrighty guys, I got them all transplanted now. I wasn't able to cover as much stem as I would like, but I didn't want to use up more potting soil in a bigger pot because these are going to go on the ground pretty soon. So all there is to do now is we're going to water in the soil really well and watch them grow. Alrighty guys, that's about all we have time for today. The sun is starting to go down, but we still have a lot of work to do here on the porch forest, out at the farm, and in the backyard. So I just want to say thank you for joining me today. And if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you have any questions about any of the plants you saw today or anything I did, leave it down in the comments and I'll get to you on that. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon, and be sure to go check us out on Facebook and Instagram. And until next time, I hope you'll join me right here on The More You Grow.